Hello, and welcome to the training for new diocesan catechetical leaders. This webinar will cover certain aspects of your role with a main focus on safe environment policies of the diocese. I am Mary Ellen Dantino, the Director of the Diocesan Safe Environment Office, and I will be narrating this training. Here's an outline of what we will be covering in this training. First, we'll briefly discuss your role as catechetical leader. We'll spend a good amount of time on discussing appropriate boundaries in ministry. We will cover the personal safety training for students that's required in our diocese, how to report any concerns that come up, and where to find forms and get further assistance. Please take a moment to review this description of the role of a catechetical leader. As you probably know, catechetical leaders work with youth at the elementary level, the middle school level, and at the high school level as youth ministers. Catechetical leaders are very enthusiastic about spreading the gospel and the love of Christ in their ministry. Of course, we expect this to be the case. However, it is important to show your love for others in appropriate professional ways. In this first part of the training, we will discuss appropriate boundaries in ministry. These boundaries are important for you as a leader to follow, and you also need to make sure that teachers and others who interact with youth in your program maintain appropriate boundaries as well. So, what exactly are boundaries? Boundaries are limits, lines that should not be crossed. Remember, you are not a buddy or a friend to the students. You are an adult role model, as are the teachers, aides, and others who assist with faith formation. We are going to discuss three main areas where it is very important to maintain appropriate boundaries, both for your own protection as well as the protection of the students. These three areas are expressing affection towards minors in appropriate ways, communicating carefully, and using technology safely. So first, we're going to discuss ways of expressing affection towards the children and teens. Of course, as a person who works with children, we know that you will feel affection towards them, and that's perfectly normal. However, you need to remember that physical boundaries should be maintained at all times. This means that you respect others' personal space when you express affection. Some examples of acceptable and appropriate ways to express your affection towards children and teens are listed here. So now we're going to go over some communication rules that you should keep in mind when talking with children and teens. Please know that our Diocesan Code of Conduct calls for you to speak respectfully to the students at all times. Be encouraging and kind in your interactions. Please never use foul, harsh, or derogatory language around children. If you need to correct them, do so gently. If a behavior problem persists, speak with your supervisor, the pastor, and/or the parent. We have found that it's best not to joke around with students. Jokes can easily be misinterpreted by children. Sometimes teasing results in kids feeling bad and feelings being hurt. Never discuss personal sexual information or your personal problems with minors. Keep it professional. If sexuality needs to be addressed during classes, Be sure to convey the teachings of the Catholic Church. If you become aware that a student or teen is having personal or mental health problems, refer the issue to the parents. If you believe the student could benefit from counseling, do not attempt to be a counselor yourself. Make this recommendation to the parents so that they can find a qualified professional counselor if they wish to do so. One way of ensuring that boundaries are maintained in your communications with students is to be sure that they use an appropriate title, such as Mr., Mrs., Miss, etc. Do not have the students call you by your first name. When working with youth, it is quite likely that you will be communicating electronically at times. If you plan to use electronic communications, please keep these diocesan guidelines in mind. Always obtain the pastor's approval for any communication method you plan to use. If the pastor does not approve of the method, you should not use it. Let the parents know how you will be communicating with them and with their children. Communicate to the group as a whole. Do not contact students individually. Be sure to take into consideration the age of the students you're working with. For example, you should always communicate to parents only when the children are below the age of junior high school. With older students, if you are communicating directly to the group, make sure the parents are copied on everything you send. If you're using social media sites, keep them public to the extent possible. Share your logon credentials with your supervisor. And be sure to keep all communications focused on your ministry. Here I've listed some guidelines for email use. We ask that you always use a parish email address, not your personal email address. This will allow you to maintain a professional image, and it makes clear that your communications are being made on behalf of the Catholic Church. If you don't have a parish account, you can speak with the office and have them set that up for you. Do not email students under the age of 14. If you're using group emails that include teens' email addresses, make sure that parents are all right with this method and always copy the parents, or consider just sending the emails to the parents. And last, be sure to save copies of all of your emails. So some parishes decide that texting is a method of communication that they would like to use with the youth. And here are some guidelines for texting. As previously stated, check with your pastor to see if he approves of this type of communication. Always send group texts only. Students need to be at least 14 years old or junior high school age in order to use this method of communication. Never send individual messages to students, and don't use this method to chat with them. Keep all messages focused on group activities. And as we've already discussed, copy parents and let them join into the group text if they would like to. One way to communicate via text that is a safe method is using a messaging system. This keeps your personal phone number and those of the students private. Flock note is a method such as this that is being used in the Diocese of Manchester. If you're interested in using flock note in your parish, You can find out more by visiting the website that is listed here. In addition, if you text Catholic NH to the number 84576, you can sign up to receive official communications from our faith formation, youth ministry, and adult formation departments. You'll be able to choose which ones you want to receive. Many parishes have Facebook pages, and we encourage you to do so. Here are some guidelines regarding Facebook. Again, as always, get prior approval from the pastor. Do not use Facebook with those under high school age. Inform parents so they can join into the Facebook page as well. We recommend a public group page. Private groups are allowed, but use caution in determining which you prefer to use. If you do have a private group, you should have 2 site administrators. Do not invite teens to be your friend on Facebook. Let them like the page or request to be a group member. Make sure there's at least 1 site administrator, and that person will approve posts, or you can decide not to allow individuals to post on your page. As with the other methods of communication, use this for group communication regarding events and meetings, and not as a place to chat or hang around. And we ask that you do not tag pictures. And what that means is don't identify the people in the pictures by name. I'll just briefly go through a few other methods of electronic communication that sometimes come up. Some parishes have Twitter accounts, and even Bishop Labashi has one. You'll see here that his handle is @BishopLabashi. When using Twitter, just use the guidelines that we've already discussed in regards to safety. Some have asked whether they can use Instagram or Snapchat accounts in ministry. At this time, we do recommend against using Instagram, and we do not allow Snapchat to be used as a ministry tool. In regards to photos, just a few things to consider. When posting photos, please be sure to disable geolocation. Do not tag minors. And on another note, be aware of your personal Facebook accounts and other social media accounts, and don't post any pictures that would reflect poorly on the Catholic Church. Now we're going to move on to discussing some of our safe environment procedures and programs. As you may already know, all adults who work regularly with minors in our diocese must complete what we call the safe environment requirements. Every parish has a safe environment coordinator who will work with you to make sure that all of the people in your program have completed these requirements. As the catechetical leader, you should be sure to find out who your safe environment coordinator is, and then communicate regularly with that person to let him or her know who your volunteers are. This will help in ensuring that everyone is in compliance. I'm going to show you a list of what each person who will work in your program must complete. Everyone needs to complete either a volunteer or employment application. They need to complete the online child safety, sexual abuse awareness training, and what we're currently using is Shield the Vulnerable training. Each person working with minors needs to complete 1 or more background checks. And last, everyone's name is checked on the sex offender website. Your Safe Environment Coordinator assists in making sure that these items are accomplished. Again, just be sure to provide the coordinator with information about volunteers, any changes, anyone who's new, and anyone who is no longer assisting. And they'll be sure that this is all kept up to date. The next program we're going to talk about is the Diocesan Personal Safety Training for Students. Just to provide a little bit of history, every diocese in the country is required by the USCCB to provide safety training to all enrolled students. The bishop can determine which curriculum is used. In our diocese, we use Circles of Care curriculum and the NetSmarts curriculum. Every year, students in each grade need to be taught a lesson as part of your religious education classes. You can choose which age-appropriate lesson you wish to use for each grade. All of the lessons are found at the website that's listed at the bottom of this page, and it's catholicnh.org/training. This chart will provide you with an overview of your responsibilities in respect to the personal safety training. This is something that you are responsible for as the catechetical leader. You should review the Circles of Care and the NetSmarts lessons and decide which ones that you want to use. Then you should provide instruction to the teachers on when they should teach the lessons and answer any questions that they have about how to teach the lessons. You also need to inform parents that the lessons are being taught to the students, and you can refer them to the website catholicnh.org/training if they would like to take a look at the lessons. There's also some paperwork to be completed. Each teacher will complete an attendance form and provide that to you. And then you'll need to complete a master tally that indicates how many enrolled students there are and then how many were trained. And then you send it to me, Mary Ellen Dentino, as soon as possible, but the deadline is May 1st each year. As noted on the chart, if you do have any absent students, we ask that you try to reschedule the lesson or do a follow-up lesson with those students. Just one more note on this. Youth ministry is also responsible for teaching a lesson during the year, and at this point, all parishes are being encouraged to provide youth ministry for students in grades 9 through 12. So we do have lessons that go all the way up through grade 12. And if you have any questions about these lessons, feel free to call me. We're going to move on to how to report any concerns or suspicions of abuse. As you will learn in our Shield the Vulnerable training, everyone who ministers in the Diocese of Manchester does need to be aware of our reporting procedures. If you suspect that a child is being abused or neglected, you're required by law to make a report to the Division of Child, Youth, and Families, which is DCYF. You'll see the phone number listed here. If anyone who works or volunteers for the parish is involved, you also need to report your concerns to the Delegate for Ministerial Conduct, and that's my role as well. The main number is listed here. If you suspect that a child is being sexually abused, you also need to contact the police. As you can see, the phone numbers are listed here, and we also have reporting cards that are available from the Safe Environment Office that you can keep on hand and provide to your volunteers. As part of your online training, you will be signing the Diocesan Code of Ministerial Conduct. Please familiarize yourself with the Code of Conduct, and if you suspect that any of your volunteers or fellow workers have violated the code, you must report your concerns to the delegate. Some example of potential violations would be sexual harassment, boundary violations in regards to the items that we've already discussed, and other types of inappropriate conduct. For more information about our diocesan safe environment policies and programs, along with related forms, you can go to catholicnh.org/child-safety. In addition, most of the forms that you may need for items such as field trips, permission slips, medication, and driving applications are managed by the risk management company of the diocese. Their name is Porter and Curtis. These forms can be found at catholicnh.org/risk. If you have questions relating to risk management, such as how to plan an event, get insurance, and other related questions, you may contact Porter and Curtis directly at the number provided here. There's so much more to know, but we do have a lot of child safety materials available online. Everything that we have discussed is available online, and we also have some materials that you can print out as reference or provide to parents. These are located on the website at catholicnh.org/parents. If you have any questions about your parish responsibilities as a catechetical leader, please contact Kelly Goudreau, Director of the Office of Parish Faith Formation. We hope that you will also attend an in-person orientation session. These are scheduled twice a year for new and nearly new catechetical leaders. And if you have any questions about safe environment policies and procedures, you can free to contact me, and here's my contact information. Thank you so much for reviewing this orientation video. Kelly and I hope it was helpful to you, and we look forward to meeting you in the future.